I wiemy to z ostatniej chwili, że gdzieś już nawet naprawili. Krok ich nam w uszach od dawna brzmi, ale w postaci nie widać wciąż. Czujemy tylko, jak ziemia krąży, pod progiem góry drąży ich miąższ. Na wschód, na zachód rzucamy kątem, czy już górują nad horyzontem, lecz ciągle nic prócz kroku ech, co konia, którym wstrzymuje dech. I zaś z myślą nienaną się kryją, może to tylko tak serca biją. I do Brytanii świat zesłał, żeby nic stracić. I wiele to z ostatniej chwili,
A year ago, the Polish military forces took action that had been urged upon them by communist regimes in the Soviet Union and East Europe. They sought to do, by force of arms, that which the lies and slanders of the Polish government, the Communist Party and their allies throughout the world failed to do since solidarity was established.
We stand together with the Polish people in their continuing tragedy. We meet here today free in the knowledge that we can speak our mind and come together in whatever cause we will. We must never cease to identify ourselves with the Polish people until that right of free speech and that right of free association under the law is theirs as well. We in this country are proud of our way of life, proud of our identity. We're proud of our freedom as well. Why should not the gallant and noble Polish nation have the right to enjoy the same thing?
Awake from this nightmare, I must write to my son who remains in Poland. My dearest Janusz, it's almost your 15th birthday. Instead of a card, all I have to write on is a simple notepad, the very same one in which I wrote that article about the workers who were so brutally beaten in Gdańsk. It was that, and my activity with Solidarity, which led to my arrest. My train hurtles across Europe from Warsaw to Paris, the trail of exile. So many others have taken since the great emigration from Poland in 1831. Remember the opening words of our national anthem? Poland is not lost as long as we are alive. Cześć, kochany.
Cześć, to są moi przyjaciele. Pewnie jesteś zmęczony strasznie, że pójdziemy, wiesz, od razu.
A gdzie idziemy? Prawo, w lewo?
Do metra. Idziemy do metra. A kiedy ty w ogóle wyszedłeś z internatu? Opowiadaj sobie.
A dzisiaj jest czwartek?
Czwartek, tak.
To 2 tygodnie dokładnie. Wiesz, no były pewne naciski. Mogłem się zaufać, ale wolałem nie.
Gdzie siedziałeś?
Białe.
Żona.
Ale chyba wyjadą, nie wiem. On my first evening in Paris, I thought of the strong connections we've had with France. For years, especially during the 19th century, it was the center of Polish efforts abroad to try to secure an independent Poland. Memorials to our great soldiers, poets, and musicians still remain. Friends from Solidarity directed me to a refugee center, where I found myself mainly amongst Poles who, like myself, had recently been released from internment.
Udałem się do szpitala na Unii Lubelskiej, byłem 85 dni na operację. Po prostu miałem maszynową dość potężną przepuklinę, także po prostu skorzystałem z Czerwonego Krzyża.
Przepisać do syna list pisze, komponuje, więc... Tak. I promise you, Janusz, bad as I am at writing letters, as I continue my travels, I'll keep in touch. You know how your mother worries. Please take care of her. The next 2 days I explored Paris in the footsteps of our previous exiles. Armed with tickets for the metro and a city map, it was not so difficult. Do you know that right opposite the Polish consulate in Paris, there is a little memorial to the dead from the Wujek mine. Also pictures of Lech Wałęsa. It was a simple tribute, but very moving. For a moment, I thought back.
Ocalić trzeba co najdroższe, a przecież tyle już tego jest. Budujcie arkę przed potopem, odrzućcie dziś.
There was a placard which said, "After Warsaw, Paris forbids Radio Solidarity." Why was that, I wondered. Sunday morning, I walked to the Polish church. Surrounded by all the Polish voices, I almost started to look for your faces in the crowd. In the Polish Catholic mission adjoining the church, I found hunger strikers in support of Radio Solidarity. Jak długo panowie jesteście na scenie?
6. dzień.
6 dzień. To chodzi o to radio, tak?
No, chodzi o zezwolenie na działanie Radia Solidarność w Paryżu.
A czy było przedtem zezwolenie, czy nie?
Nie, to jest skomplikowana sprawa. Tutaj
tak.
nikt nie miał zezwolenia, a teraz została ustalona lista radzi, które mają zezwolenia i byśmy zostali wyłączeni z tej listy.
This is one of the main meeting places for Poles in Paris, where news of the homeland is exchanged.
O godzinie 12 rusza manifestacja poparcia Radia Solidarność.
It was a really cheerful morning, apart from a book I found, which reminded me of the tragedy in the Katyn woods during the Second World War, where thousands of Polish officers were murdered by the Soviets. The small square is a collection point for the vans to take parcels of food and medicines to Poland. I send one to you both, with soap, coffee and chocolate. A stone's throw from Notre Dame, I made my visit to the Historical and Literary Society, one of the great Polish libraries and museums abroad. Amongst others, it preserves the works of the patriotic poets Mickiewicz, Słowacki, Norwid, Krasiński. Their poetry stirs almost every Polish heart, as it did so much to sustain national values during the 123 years when Poland lost her freedom. The Society continues its work today.
Która istnieje już przeszło 150 lat i jest największą biblioteką polską na Zachodzie.
W zeszłym roku na odczycie Kalinowskiego było aż 200 osób, co jest wielkim powodzeniem. On mówił wtedy o dziełach Jana Pawła II. Te odczyty w Instytucie Katolickim odbywają się na tematy historyczne.
Wydaje mi się, że chciałbym jednak wrócić do naszej uroczystości trzeciomajowej, która jest naszym największym świętem Towarzystwa Historyczno-Literackiego w Paryżu.
Na parterze znajduje się czytelnia. Dziennie korzysta 50 osób z niej. Jest to bardzo ważny punkt spotkania Polaków.
I pamiątek po poecie. Nie mówiąc o takich rzeczach jak jego portrety, jak na przykład ten...
Dr. Borowski showed me the section of the museum commemorating Adam Mickiewicz.
Znajduje się tu tutaj u nas od dłuższego czasu i jakoś szczęśliwie nie poniósł zbyt wielu strat w czasie wydarzeń wojennych. Widzi pan tutaj na przykład cały szereg rękopisów poety.
We generally regard Mickiewicz as the greatest of our poets, and most of his writing was involved with the national struggle. Amongst other objects, I was shown the desk he worked on, manuscripts, letters, and his passport.
Które pochodzi z mieszkania Mickiewicza i mamy go tutaj w takim stanie dosłownie, jakim był, kiedy Paryż opuścił w 1800.
It is the preoccupation with history and the efforts of Poles everywhere, which has done so much to keep the values of our tradition and culture alive, even in the worst periods. I ask you to remember that although, especially in the last 2 centuries, tragedy and insurrection has been all too frequent, Poland was for centuries before that a great democratic nation, an example of religious tolerance.
Jego pomnik paryski, który pan już na pewno widział, to ma pan tutaj jego zmniejszony model ofiarowany nam przez rzeźbiarza w bibliotece. Tutaj jako ciekawostkę pokażę panu jego paszport, kiedy jechał jako bezpaństwowiec do Lozanny na swoje wykłady.
48 lat.
Tak, 48 lat, osiwiał wcześniej. No i dalej.
Under the Arc de Triomphe, I found the names of Polish generals and battles fought by Dąbrowski's legions for Napoleon and France. It had been hoped for Poland too. Polish soldiers adopted the slogan, "For our freedom and for yours." Despite the sacrifice, Poland didn't regain her own freedom until over 100 years later, in 1918, and then only briefly. My morning ended at the statue of Adam Mickiewicz on the banks of the River Seine. Before leaving for Scotland, I went to the cemetery at Père-Lachaise. Amongst the graves of the famous, I found the tomb of Delacroix, from which I came to the resting place of his friend, Frédéric Chopin. Do you know, Chopin's last request from his deathbed was that his heart be removed and returned to Poland. Behind me now the names of great soldiers: Kościuszko, Poniatowski, Dąbrowski. My thoughts, as I arrived in Scotland, turned to your uncle Tadeusz, who fought with the Western Allies in the Polish 1st Armoured Division, led by General Maciek, who still lives in Edinburgh today. Polish ex-combatants directed me to Dr. Tomaszewski, a former senior lecturer of the Edinburgh University Polish Medical School, which generously helped Polish medical students in the forces train as doctors during the Second World War. I heard from the doctor of long-standing links between Scotland and Poland. In the war, thousands of Poles were formed into units and trained in Scotland. Just 3,000 remain in Scotland today. Amongst these, Dr. Stefan Boroń, who lectures at Heriot-Watt University. Later, I asked Stefan's wife, Dr. Ida Boroń, how she felt as a Pole born outside her country.
I think we both feel very much that we are Polish. That is our first nationality, and our first allegiance we feel is towards Poland.
And this grew in a way, didn't it? I mean, in my case, it didn't just
For
appear.
a period of several years, he couldn't find his identity properly. He was neither Scottish nor Polish. And then suddenly he was sent to Poland on holidays, and realizing that there is a whole nation of 30 million of people speaking the same language, he discovered that he belonged there.
I think it's a question of finding out about the traditions of the country, the culture of the country, and the values for which the country fought in the past. I, for myself, found that the ideals were very high.
In England, with friends, I found myself at Foley Court, Henley-on-Thames. Here there is a Polish school, museum and church run by the Marian Fathers. For this special Mass, thousands have come from all over Britain.
Swój powszechny Kościół, bogacaj całą ziemię darami Ducha Świętego i dokonuj przez serca wierzących tego.
It's not surprising that, as in Poland, Polish exiles take inspiration from the Church. The decision of our ruler Mieszko I to take Christianity from Rome has been described as the most important political decision we ever took. Were it not for this, Poland as a nation with a Western culture might not exist today.
To prawo, które Bóg z ludzkością zawarł. I tam się Mojżesz pytał pod tą górą Synaj, tych wszystkich tam zebranych ludzi, czy chcecie przyjąć to prawo? Czy chcecie być wierni Bogu? Czy chcecie rzeczywiście służyć Bogu? I oni za każdym razem mówili chcemy. I wtedy Mojżesz wziął krew i pokropił ten cały lud jako na znak, że to przymierze zostało zawarte.
This reminds me, I haven't told you yet about my stay in Manchester, the centre for the largest Polish community in Britain outside London. The church, full to capacity, contained many memorials which testify to the courage and awful losses of our people on the battlefields and in the camps. My host, Mr. Żaba, chairman of the Council of the Federation of Poles in Britain, gave me a unique insight into the way a large Polish community abroad lives. Amongst numerous organizations, Poles abroad run their own schools, publishing houses, newspapers, medical aid to Poland, theater groups and scouts. In Saturday schools, the children learn Polish language and history and see that Poland was once a powerful and influential nation.
Polska była jednym z największych państw Europy. Stało się po Unii z Litwą. Ale Litwa miała olbrzymie terytorium, a Polska była stosunkowo mała. Jeżeli przyjrzycie się mapie, to mniej więcej to była Polska. A ta cała ogromna reszta to była Litwa. Jest bardzo trudno sobie wyobrazić nawet dzisiaj, jak olbrzymie to państwo naprawdę było wtedy w XVI wieku. Może teraz sobie powiemy, dlaczego jak wam się wydaje, że historia XVI wieku, historia Polski XVI wieku nie jest tak potrzebna do zrozumienia treści trenów, jak na przykład była historia Polski do zrozumienia pana Tadeusza. Może Helenka nam to powie.
Myślę, że historia Polski nie jest taka właśnie potrzebna, ponieważ temat jest ogólnoludzki.
You know, Janusz, I must tell you that it was the effort and activity which I saw here which made me realize the contribution that is made by Poles abroad. About a quarter of the Polish nation live outside Poland. When the Pope visited Britain, he reminded them of their duty to the homeland, also to the communities in which they live. Dearest Janusz, in Manchester British guests are invited to share in the 120th anniversary of the January uprising in 1863 at the annual event Opłatek, which commemorates the past and toasts the future. It is organized by the Polish Ex-Combatants Association. On land, sea, and in the air, during the Second World War, nearly 250,000 Poles served with their Western allies in the belief that they would regain Poland's freedom. During the Battle of Britain, 1 in 8 of the pilots was Polish.
I give you the 12th, the Queen, the Duke of Leicester.
that you should do this, to retain the culture that you brought with you from Poland. We are very proud to be considered one of you.
Ciepło dla mnie. No możesz to sam zrobić? Zobacz sobie. Tej czapkę jak...
My message is, of course, we'll never forget the past, but let's not be overwhelmed by the past. Let's look to the future, and I wish you every success.
I repeat a simple wish to our British friends. We wish you, our friends, that you never forget, neither in 83 nor later, that the struggle, the solidarity struggle, which is going on in Poland, is not a Polish struggle only. This is the struggle for our freedom and yours.
We wish to make only 2 points today. The first is, do not be misled by the masquerade set up by the military junta in Poland. Of course, it is good news that Lech Wałęsa has been released from internment. But many Solidarity leaders remain in prison and should be set free. And what's the use of setting free one set of people if others are arrested to take their place in prisons or internment camps?
ty i ja. Wódki wcale nie pije, ponieważ nie ma głowy on mocnej. Kiedyś wypił troszkę u stryja, któż tacie wtedy załatwił nocleg. Rachunek był duży, lecz tacie na rękę
tak mógł się przeziębić lub rozbić syrenkę. Niebieskie tramwaje po ścianach mkną.
Niebieskie tramwaje,
Niebieskie mundury, któż nosi to? Poznajesz?
Poznaję.
30 lat z hakiem, a jeszcze lat 100.
We have to decide today whether we shall display only books published in Britain or whether we shall include those...
Have we got those books here?
Yes,
from America?
From
the
Polish
Library in our collection, and you can see there's enormous number of books being published everywhere outside Poland. So I think every publisher should be.
Well, we can come back to that. What about theatre? What do you think we should do at a festival as a theatrical?
Well, the theatre is a very important item in Great Britain, especially we have a very large Polish community in Great Britain, and of course London is the center of the Polish artistic life, and as you know very well, the Polish Artists Association has celebrated their 40th anniversary only in January. And it was very important also from the point of view that the Polish Artists Association in Poland is banned.
Będziemy przez polską dzicz, drgamy chaszcze błota, aż tam nie ma nic. Skromota i tęsknota, aż tam raz po raz zębą niebieską kusi. Tam chce być każdy z nas, kto nie chce chcieć, ten musi. W czerwonym autobusie, w czerwonym autobusie, w czerwonym autobusie mija czas.
Stoi młody Żyd, no zdrada Żyd czy nie Żyd, jakby mu było wstyd, że mimo wszystko przeżył, a baba z koszem jaj już szepcze do człowieka, wie o tym cały kraj, że Żydzi to bezpieka.
Więc na co jeszcze czekasz? Więc na co jeszcze czekasz? Więc na co jeszcze czekasz? Odbieraj!
Robotnikiem ksiądz, za księdzem kosynierzy i ktoś się modli klnąc, ktoś bluźni, ale wierzy. A robotniczy herszt tapować coś zaczyna, więc mocny robi gest i rękę w łokciu zgina.
Nie ruszy go lawina, nie ruszy go lawina, nie ruszy go lawina, mocny jest!
Tam z tyłu stary dziad do objęcia wziął prawiczkę, nieznany czyha czart, w nadziei na kuszyczkę, upiorów małych rząd, zwieszony u poręczy, w żyły nam sączy trąd, zatruje i udręczy.
Za oknem Polska wtęczy, za oknem Polska wtęczy, za oknem Polska wtęczy.
Jedźmy stąd.
That of course is Jan Sobieski, who liberated Vienna exactly 300 years ago, in his anniversary of that battle. We are doing an exhibition about it.
To Paderewski?
Yes, of course, that is Paderewski. It's our sort of musical corner because we have concerts here in this room and it's very good acoustic. That, of course, is Prince Poniatowski, painted by Bacciarelli, one of the best, as you know, painters in Poland in that period. Standing, and of course, that's Sikorski, who was our leader during the war. And here we have some sort of souvenirs from the naval force.
And this?
And this is Błyskawica, a destroyer built in England in 1936, and which later on arrived to England during the beginning of the war.
Is it silver?
It's silver because that is a present from shipyards, White and Company, very famous shipyards, to Countess Raczyńska, wife of Ambassador of Poland at that time.
Isn't he president?
Today he is the president on exile, of Poles on exile.
But we knew, the Poles knew the dangers which threatened our country, and that is why
4 years before the outbreak of the war, in 1935, on the 23rd of April, the Polish Diet, the Polish Parliament, voted a new and accepted a new constitution for Poland. And this constitution provided that in times of war, in times like those in which we live today, the President of Poland, the reigning President of Poland was entitled to appoint his successor. And after Mr. Zaleski's death, his appointee, Mr. Ostrowski, succeeded him, and I succeeded Ostrowski. All that was done in accordance with the Polish constitution, which the Polish people respect.
That is the normal sword everybody had, every officer had typical. Again, some souvenirs of horse artillery. And I noticed you looked at that picture, which is quite unusual, very well done, and that painting represents the engagement in 1920 during the war with Soviet Russia. But the date is not important in that picture. Really, one could repaint to any uniforms you want, 18th or 17th or 16th century, because Poland was the guardian of Eastern Europe's frontiers.
Yes.
And of course, they were fighting Turks, Mongols, and the Muscovites. And you met General Maczek, didn't you?
Yes, I did.
2 days ago.
Yes.
These three standards are from his 10th Brigade. He started the war with that brigade. He was commanding officer of that brigade. And the brigade, later on, all these regiments formed the 1st Division. He was a commander here.
Ze wszystkich tych bitew, jakie wtedy w Holandii dywizja moja stoczyła, może najbardziej taką wyróżniającą się i dla mnie pamiętną była bitwa o Bredę, o miasto Bredę. Dlatego, że był to akt zupełnie samodzielny działania dywizji pancernej, która z bardzo pomocniczego zadania osłony skrzydła przeszła z mojej inicjatywy do zaczepnego działania, gdy działania od zachodu aliantów ugrzęzły i wtedy przez bardzo udane oskrzydlenie właściwie wpadła nam Breda jak dojrzałe jabłko do ręki. Stąd z jednej strony efekt wielki tej bitwy, z drugiej szalona wdzięczność ludności, która nie ucierpiała żadnych strat, ani materialnych, ani w ludziach i dostała wolność naprawdę w formie jak najbardziej do strawienia.
And of course, after Normandy landing, General Maczek went on to liberate
Belgium, Holland, and war for the 1st Armored Division finished in Wilhelmshaven in Germany, where the port surrendered to General Maczek. And that's how the war finished for them. And it's really ironic, you know, you could be even bitter about it, because all the soldiers led by generals like Maczek, Anders, Sikorski, Kopański, Rudnicki, all of them, they were fighting to go back and liberate their own country. And at the end, because of the Yalta Conference, again we come to the same subject, in 1945, Poland was handed over to communist camp. And all the soldiers, and it was quite a lot of them, about 200,000, it was fourth of the strength in Allied camps, so it's an enormous army which was fighting, almost was betrayed by their own allies. So, you know, one can be very bitter about it, and it is a sort of the history played a very bad joke on Europe, because as we were talking before, Poland was the guardian of the Europe's frontiers in the east, and then was handed to the east. And all because of that, we are here, and all these exponents are here.
If I may add, at first, when in 1945, after the famous Conference of Yalta, the the British government and also the American government transferred their allegiance to the communist-ruled Poland, and we ceased to be recognized in this country, several countries remained faithful to the old team. In due course, after years, this ceased. But to us Poles, we are a proud nation. We don't see why a nation of 36 millions now, living on a territory which is more or less the size of Great Britain, should obey in such questions, essential questions, to be ruled, to be run in accordance with the rules of our neighbors. We, the Poles, remain faithful to our constitution. And in accordance with our constitution, the Polish government in London, which is really appointed by the president, and the president himself are absolutely legal.
Rok miniony, 82, będzie niewątpliwie rokiem, którego historia i pamięć narodu nie zapomni. Rok wojny jaruzelskiego przeciw własnemu narodowi, rok Wrony, rok Zomo zostanie w pamięci narodu razem z Targowicą, rzezią Pragi oraz prześladowaniami po powstaniu styczniowym. Historia Polski nie zna jednak sytuacji podobnej do wojny jaruzelskiej. Nie zna spisku dzierżycieli władzy przeciw własnemu narodowi.
Support the fight of Polish people for your own sake, for the sake of the freedom of this country and of the world. Long live solidarity spirit in Poland. Long live solidarity of free people and nation.
And I speak as one who believes that the fight that the Poles are putting up, that fight is our fight too. They are seeking what men have sought from the beginning of time, some share in the direction of their government. They are seeking the right to do what working people have won, in the free world at any rate, the right to form free trade unions, and at least to be brought into discussion, into dialogue with the communist masters, whether they are Poles or whether they are merely puppets of Moscow. All they are seeking is that, and it menaces no one. It threatens no one's security. What it does is to give hope that one day, within the vast ramshackle Soviet empire, that men and women will be able to express themselves more freely.
I can assure you that Solidarność lives on, and that there are still trade unionists expecting your help. I would like to remind you that our fight, after all, was not for the lifting of martial law, but for socialism with a human face in Poland.
Now I must finish this letter to you, Janusz. Happily, I found some work with a Polish publisher. Like other exiles, I thought my stay here would be temporary. Now, I am unsure of this. I asked your mother to apply for passports, and hopefully, we will see each other soon. Keep hopeful, and remember the words of our poet Kochanowski. Keep us where best we shall serve your purpose.
Może ciało. Zielone świątki to było, nie?
Może dożynki, co?
Cudowna, niepowtarzalna atmosfera. Wspaniały nastrój.
Kostiumów tylko brakuje. Tak są poza tym.
Jak w Polsce.
Dokładnie tak samo jak w Polsce. Ja ci powiem, jak przyjechałem z tej Polski do Paryża, do Polaków. Przyjechałem z Paryża do Londynu, do Polaków. Gdzie jest ta nasza Polska?
Jak myślisz? Gdzie?
Tutaj.
That they are generals, colonels, and the commissars, and the soldiers in the brand new armored cars, and the plain clothes comrades train like spotting stars. They can easily break your arm or kick your ass just for looking at their cars. Here is us, amid the rubble and the broken glass. We say nothing, we don't shout or yell or cuss. We don't struggle, we don't argue with the brass. We don't even make complaints or raise a fuss. That is simply not for us. Now let us see how things round here are going to be. Who will guard them? Mighty ships launched out to sea. Who will work this shipyard's all machinery? Who will turn the mighty wheels of industry? Surely neither you nor me. Generals, you can't make goods with tanks and armored cars.